If you've ever struggled with painting natural looking trees in watercolor, you're not alone. One of my favorite ways to paint foliage that really looks effortless is with a Hake brush. And today I'm going to show you exactly how I use this brush to create realistic foliage. This is just one part of my full watercolor mastery workshop, Landscape Fundamentals, and you can find that by clicking the link below. So the first thing you'll notice about a Hake brush is that a Hake brush is actually a natural brush, and a natural brush has natural fibers, and this one's actually made out of goat hair. The edge is actually very irregular, which makes it perfect for painting organic things like trees and shrubs and bushes and even grasses and things like that. So very, very handy, very versatile brush. Can be used for a lot of different things, and it's one of my favorite brushes to use in watercolor painting. You'll also notice that it's a fairly wide brush. This one's actually an inch wide, so it covers a fairly large amount of paper pretty quickly. So we're going to go right into the drawing stage, and this is actually a sped up version of our tree drawing, and as you can see, it's really simplified. What we really want are just these basic shapes, because we are going to allow our Hake brush to tell us what these details in our tree are going to look like. The cool thing about this technique is that you can arrange these circles, you can sketch these circles in a variety of different shapes and sizes to be able to paint just about any kind of a tree that you can imagine. So we're going to begin painting our tree now, and as you can see, I've got my Hake brush, and the way that I'm painting this, what I'm actually doing is I'm just kind of dabbing my brush, and I'm using these kind of almost like a arcing shape around these circular shapes that I created with my sketch. And the cool thing about doing it this way is that, again, you're using the uneven natural edge of the brush to create this organic feel to these tree limbs, or this foliage within the tree. But at the same time, what we're doing is as we add pigment to the paper is we want these shapes to connect together so that all of this pigment flows from top to bottom. And by the way, as you're doing this, or as I'm doing this, you'll notice that a bead of water tends to collect at the bottom of these connected shapes. And the reason for that is because as I'm doing this, I want to have a tilt to my paper that's about 20 degrees so that all of the pigment on the paper is actually moving from the top of the page to the bottom of the page. And it's really, again, it's important for a variety of different reasons to have these brushstrokes connect together. But one of the main reasons is because I want all of this pigment to move from top to bottom, to move throughout this entire tree shape from top to bottom. Notice also as I move from one circular shape, again, the entire tree is kind of comprised of several different of these small circular shapes, but as I move from one shape to the next, the brushstroke is following the curve of each one of those individual circles. But at the same time, they're connecting. Notice too that where the circles come together, where the circles are connecting, there's a little bit of the white of the paper that I'm leaving there. And the reason for that is because what I want to convey here is that there's actually light that is passing through the tree. I want the viewer to be able to see the sky behind this tree. So what I'm actually doing is I'm leaving some space between, just a little bit of space between those circles for sky holes. And Just putting on some finishing touches here. And you probably notice too that I add a little bit more pigment up into the top of that shape, and the reason being is because I want all of those, want to make sure all of that paint is still wet, that it's still flowing. So what I'm doing now, and remember we've got a 20-degree slant or angle to our board, so we got a little bit of a tilt, which is allowing that pigment to flow downward. So I'm just picking up all of that extra pigment at the bottom of this shape that's collecting, because if we let it go too far and we let too much pigment build up, we might get a bit of a drip or a run down there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more color, and we're just going to drop in some green. Now technically this is what's called a variegated wash. Now a variegated wash, fancy word, just means that it's a watercolor wash that has more than one color in it. So what we're doing here is we're adding our green right into the yellow and just allowing it to mix and mingle on its own throughout that shape. And what I'm going for here, what I'm really trying to achieve, is the illusion of a tree that is kind of backlit. And what I mean by that is the sunlight is kind of coming from behind the tree and is giving it this glowing effect, with the outside of the tree being a lighter value, the inside of the tree being the darker value. So that's and that is the finished first wash. And again, you can see that we've got some extra pigment building up here at the bottom. We're just going to pick that up with a damp brush. Just very simple technique. You just squeeze the water out of the brush with a tissue or something and then just pick it up. So we're moving on to a darker color here, and exactly the same way that we did it before, we're just going to drop this darker color. This is the same green with a little bit of cobalt blue added to it, and we're just going to drop that right into the middle of our tree shape. Now you can really see the importance of allowing all of those brush strokes to connect through the entire shape, because it really helps for this pigment to flow and mingle and to move from the top of the shape to the bottom of the shape, and as well as from the inside to the outside. So as we get down to the bottom, just going to lift it up here and let some of that paint flow through that shape and mingle, and make sure that the pigment is nice and even throughout the entire shape. Now we are going to allow this pigment to settle for a bit and take another look at it, and it looks like it could probably be a little bit darker, so we're just going to add a little bit more of that cobalt blue to that green, dark green mixture. And it's still wet, so we can do exactly the same thing that we did before, and we can darken it up even more. So we're just going to drop a little bit of that darkest blue right into the middle of that shape and just let that color move through that shape. Now we can really see how that tree is starting to get a lot more depth and dimension. It's really beginning to glow. Now we're using a color palette that is just a yellow, green, and cobalt blue, but you can see, I mean, you could use a variety of different color combinations to create this same effect and really come up with some really interesting looking trees if you were to add some burnt siennas or some burnt umbers or reds or whatever. So we're going to add a tree trunk here at the bottom of this tree, and I want to have something that's a lot more interesting than just a straight line at the bottom of the tree. So I'm going to take a moment and really think about how I can give this tree trunk some variation here. I think that if I give maybe there's a part of the tree trunk that kind of splits off to the left, and maybe even let's see here, maybe I'll put a little shape to the right of the tree trunk, and maybe there's another limb that comes off of the right of the tree trunk. The main thing is that you want to have something that's not as boring as just a straight line. You want to have something that's a lot more interesting. So I think that that works pretty well. So now that we have our tree trunk, we'll move up into the top part of the tree where the foliage is, and where we have these sky holes at, you'll naturally see a lot of those tree limbs. You'll be able to kind of see some of those tree limbs through those sky holes. So that's what we'll do now is we'll just add a few of these sky holes or a few of these tree limbs that you can see actually poking through some of those holes. Now, what I've done here too is I've switched from a what I believe was a number 4 round to a number 1 rigger brush. Now, a rigger brush is a has very thin bristles, and their rigger brush is actually perfect for creating these really thin, delicate lines that we're doing here in the top of the tree. So, so we are going to speed up this video here in just a moment while we finish up with the rest of these little branches here. If you are enjoying this video and you would like to learn more about these techniques and how to use a Hake brush, there's a link within the description to a complete watercolor workshop. In fact, I call them watercolor mastery workshops. And what this particular workshop is really all about is a deep dive on how to use a Hake brush. In fact, the entire workshop really goes through from beginning to end, really, for an entire landscape. How to use a Hake brush not only for trees but for the sky, for the grass, for the foreground, I mean everything within a landscape. And it really shows you how versatile a Hake brush can be. So I think what we'll do as we finish up with our tree here, let's paint a little grassy hill underneath this tree and just kind of anchor it to our painting here. So we'll start with the same yellow ochre, and again I've got my Hake brush. And again, just to kind of give you an idea of the versatility of this brush, we went from painting the tree to painting the grass, and it's that irregular edge, that organic edge that the Hake brush has, that's allowing us to go from one to the other, and with very little effort, and just in a very natural and organic look. So we're just going to connect that tree shadow right into the grass, and we'll pick up a little bit of this shadow color, and we'll load our brush with the shadow color and just drop that right in here underneath the tree. And what that's going to do is it's going to help to anchor that tree right to the ground. And we'll just finish that off. So looking this over and putting in a few more details here, and I think what I'm going to do here is actually just darken up this tree trunk a little bit, just to give it a little bit more depth and dimension, and that finishes our tree. I hope you enjoyed that quick video on how to use the Hake brush. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to take these techniques even further, just click the link down in the description below, and there you'll find a link to the Landscape Fundamentals workshop. And it's a workshop that has even more information about the things that you learned today in this short video. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future. And remember, the key to watercolor painting lies in confidence, and it all starts with believing in yourself. Take care, and we'll see you next time.